All right, so you want to know how to retire early, huh? Well, lucky for you, we've got a great book to help us out today.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to be diving into How to Retire Early by Robert Mamer and Robin Charlton.
Awesome.
And you know what's really cool about this book is that it's like a real life story, you know?
Yeah.
It's not just some theory, it's an actual couple
Right.
who retired in their 40s.
Wow.
And they didn't win the lottery or anything.
Impressive.
They just had a plan and they stuck to it.
That's great.
Pretty inspiring, right?
Yeah, totally.
So, I think a lot of people get intimidated by the idea of early retirement. You know,
Oh, for sure.
like they think it's only for like millionaires or something.
Yeah. Or that you have to live like a monk.
Right, exactly. But the Charltons show us that it's possible
Yeah.
for like regular people.
Yeah.
They just make smart choices and they're disciplined.
I think that's the key takeaway for sure.
So let's talk about financial independence for a second.
Okay.
I mean, we hear that term all the time these days.
Yeah, it's everywhere.
But what does it actually mean? You know?
Right. Like, what does it look like in real life?
Is it just about like never working again?
Well, it can be that for some people.
Yeah.
But I think it's more about having the freedom to choose,
Oh, I see.
like having the financial security to do what you want, whether that's working or not working.
Okay.
It could be traveling, volunteering, starting a business.
Right.
It's about not being tied down by money.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the Charltons use this thing called the 4% rule to help plan for that.
Oh, yeah, the 4% rule. I've heard of that.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, though, I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Okay, so basically it says that you can safely withdraw 4% of your investments
Okay.
every year without running out of money.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you need like $50,000 a year to live comfortably.
That sounds about right for me.
Okay, so in that case,
Yeah.
you would need a portfolio of about $1.25 million
Whoa, okay.
to retire comfortably on that $50,000.
That's a lot of money.
It is, but that becomes your FIRE number.
Fire. No.
Yeah, that's the magic number you need to hit to be financially independent.
Okay, and is there a way to, like, calculate that?
Absolutely. You just multiply your annual expenses by 25.
Wow. Okay, so, like,
So if you spend $60,000 a year, your FIRE number would be $1.5 million.
oh, wow, that's pretty straightforward.
Yeah, it gives you a clear target to aim for.
That's awesome.
But, what's interesting is that the Charltons didn't achieve this by living like hermits or anything.
Really?
They focused on something they call strategic frugality.
Strategic frugality. What's that?
It's about being smart with your money.
Oh, okay.
Like enjoying life, but finding ways to spend less.
I like that.
Like cooking at home instead of eating out all the time.
Yeah, makes sense.
Finding free or cheap entertainment, not always buying the latest gadgets, things like that.
So it's not about, like, denying yourself everything.
No, not at all.
It's more about being mindful.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And making choices that align with your goals.
Awesome. So the book really emphasizes avoiding lifestyle inflation, right?
Oh, definitely. They talk about how it's so easy to fall into that trap.
I know, right?
You get a raise and suddenly you're spending more.
Like you need a bigger house and a fancier car.
Yeah, exactly.
Sick.
But by resisting that urge,
Yeah,
you free up so much more money to save.
that makes sense. So let's talk about saving then.
Okay.
The book recommends a savings rate of 50% to 70%,
Wow.
which seems kind of extreme to me.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Is that even realistic for most people?
Well, it might sound crazy,
Yeah.
but the Charltons actually did it.
Really?
They lived on one income and saved the other.
Wow, that's impressive.
It shows how powerful it can be to prioritize your financial freedom.
Mm-hmm.
And they have some great tips on how to make it happen.
Oh, cool. Like what?
Well, they're big on the DIY approach.
DIY, like fixing things yourself?
Yeah, instead of always paying someone else to do it,
Oh, okay, I see.
like learning basic home and car maintenance.
That's a good idea.
It not only saves money, but it can be really empowering.
Yeah, I bet.
And they also suggest finding hobbies that don't cost a lot,
Oh, like what kind of hobbies?
like hiking, gardening, learning a new skill online,
Oh, yeah, those are good ones.
things like that.
That's a good point. It's about finding enjoyment in things that don't require a ton of spending.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it frees up more money to save.
Okay, so speaking of saving, what's the point of saving all that money if it's just sitting in a bank account?
Right. You're not going to get rich off of interest these days.
Yeah, that's true. So what do we do with it?
Well, that's where investing comes in.
Oh, yeah.
The Charltons didn't just hoard cash. They put it to work for them,
I see. So how do they do that?
mainly through index funds.
Oh, okay. Index funds. I've heard of those.
They're a popular choice.
Can you remind me why they're so good, though?
Sure. So basically, an index fund is like a basket of stocks
Okay.
that tracks a particular market index.
Like the S&P 500.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So instead of trying to pick individual stocks, which can be risky,
Right. Yeah.
index funds let you invest in a whole bunch of companies at once. So you spread out your risk, and you're more likely to see long-term growth.
That sounds smart.
Yeah. And the best part is that index funds usually have really low fees
Oh, that's good.
compared to like actively managed funds.
So more of your money stays invested.
Exactly.
Makes sense. So low fees, diversification, long-term growth.
Yep.
Sounds like a solid foundation for any investment portfolio.
Definitely. But the Charltons didn't just invest in index funds.
Oh, really? What else did they do?
They also invested in dividend stocks.
Dividend stocks. What are those?
Those are companies that pay out a portion of their profits to shareholders.
Oh, okay.
So it's like a steady stream of passive income,
I see.
which can be especially helpful in retirement.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And they also talked about real estate.
Oh, yeah. Real estate is always a popular investment.
It can provide both appreciation and rental income.
Right. So basically, they believe in a balanced approach.
Exactly. Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Got it. And let's not forget about compound interest.
Oh, yeah, that's the real secret weapon.
Einstein called it the eighth wonder of the world or something like that.
Shit, he did. He knew what he was talking about.
But how does it actually work?
So imagine you invest $10,000 today
Okay.
with a 7% annual return,
Right.
which is a reasonable expectation for the stock market over the long term.
Mm-hmm.
In 30 years, that investment could grow to over $76,000
Wow, really?
without you doing anything else.
That's amazing.
It's like a snowball effect.
Nice.
Your money earns interest, and then that interest earns interest.
So it just keeps growing and growing.
Exactly. It's a powerful tool for building wealth.
So we've talked about frugal living, aggressive saving, and smart investing.
The trifecta.
It sounds like a pretty solid plan for early retirement.
It is, but I have a question.
Oh, okay. What's that?
What about income?
Good point.
I mean, even with a decent nest egg, wouldn't it be nice to have some extra cash flow?
Yeah, for sure.
Especially in those early years of retirement.
Right. So what do the Charltons say about that?
Well, they're big believers in having multiple streams of income.
Oh, okay.
Beyond just your main job.
So not just a traditional 9 to 5.
Exactly. They encourage exploring things like side hustles, freelancing, consulting online businesses,
Right.
rental income.
So many options.
Yeah, the idea is to diversify your income sources, so you're not relying on just one thing.
That's smart.
It increases your earning potential, and it creates a safety net.
I love that.
Right.
It's like a more holistic approach to financial well-being.
Exactly. The Charltons are all about creating a life where you have both financial security and the freedom to pursue your passions.
This is so inspiring. It's like, it's not just about retiring, it's about designing your ideal life.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to put it.
But before we get too carried away with all the fun stuff,
Although,
we need to address the elephant in the room.
which is...
Healthcare.
Ah, yes, that's a big one.
I mean, how do early retirees handle medical costs before they're eligible for Medicare?
It's a valid concern for sure.
Yeah, it's a question that keeps a lot of people from even considering early retirement.
I know, but the good news is that the Charltons have some great advice on this.
Oh, good. I'm relieved to hear that.
Yeah, we'll dive into all that in the next part of our deep dive.
Awesome. I can't wait.
Stay tuned.
So we were talking about healthcare.
Right, a big one for anyone thinking about early retirement.
Yeah, definitely a big concern for a lot of folks, I'd imagine.
For sure. It comes up all the time.
So what do the Charltons say about it?
Well, it's good they actually dedicate a good portion of the book to it.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. And you know what I really appreciated is that their advice is really practical.
Okay, so what are their main suggestions for handling those years before you're eligible for Medicare?
Well, they emphasize right off the bat that there's no one perfect answer.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone's situation is different. But one thing they really recommend are health savings accounts, those HSAs.
Oh, right, HSAs. I've heard those are great for healthcare costs.
They really are. They've got that triple tax advantage.
Yeah, that's what I heard. But remind me how those work again.
So basically, you put in pre-tax dollars.
Right.
The money grows tax-free. And then you can take it out tax-free.
Oh, wow.
To pay for qualified medical expenses.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's a super powerful tool for managing healthcare costs, both now and in the future.
I didn't realize you could use them for future expenses, too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's like planning ahead for your health.
That's smart.
And they can really help lower your overall healthcare costs.
I see. But I thought you could only have an HSA if you had a high-deductible health plan.
That's right. You do need a qualifying plan to be able to contribute.
Okay.
But the Charltons point out that even with the higher deductible,
Yeah.
the tax advantages and the long-term savings potential can outweigh those initial costs.
Especially if you're young and healthy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're self-insuring for those smaller expenses.
And getting a nice tax break at the same time.
Right.
That's cool. But what if someone's not comfortable with that higher deductible?
Well, the good news is
Oh, okay. What else do they recommend?
the Charltons also talk about the Affordable Care Act marketplace plans.
Right, the ACA. Those are for people who don't have employer-sponsored insurance, right?
Exactly. They can be a really good option for early retirees.
I remember using those when I was freelancing.
Yeah, they're a lifesaver.
Totally.
And the Charltons have some good tips on navigating the marketplace, you know,
Oh, like what?
like really comparing those different plans,
Mm-hmm.
considering things like the premiums, the deductibles, the copays, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So you can find the plan that works best for you and your budget.
That's a good point. It pays to do your research.
It really does.
So it sounds like being proactive about healthcare is key in early retirement.
Absolutely. Don't wait till the last minute.
Now, for those who are really serious about affordable healthcare,
Okay.
the Charltons mentioned this thing called geo-arbitrage.
Geo-arbitrage. Yeah, that's for the adventurous types.
What is that exactly?
So basically, it involves moving to another country where healthcare costs are a lot lower.
Wow, that's a big step.
It is. It's definitely not for everyone.
I can imagine. But for some people, it's a real option.
Yeah, if affordable healthcare is your top priority.
So for those of us who want to stay closer to home,
Yeah.
what are the main takeaways for healthcare in early retirement?
I think the biggest thing is to be proactive.
Okay.
Start planning early, do your research, and definitely include healthcare costs in your overall retirement budget.
That makes sense. Okay, so we've tackled healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
What about taxes? That's another biggie.
Oh, yeah. Taxes can be scary.
Totally. But luckily, the Charltons have some good strategies for navigating that world, too.
They do. They actually do a great job of breaking down complex tax stuff
Yeah.
into simpler terms.
Okay, that's good to hear.
Yeah. And they offer some really good advice on how to minimize your tax burden.
I'm all ears.
So one thing they emphasize is understanding those different retirement accounts
Okay.
and how the withdrawal rules work. You know, they
Mhm.
talk about the benefits of Roth IRA conversions.
Oh, yeah. Roth IRAs, those are the ones where you pay taxes up front, right?
Exactly. And then you can withdraw the money tax-free in retirement.
Right.
So it can be a really smart move for early retirees,
I see.
especially if you think you'll be in a higher tax bracket later on.
That makes sense.
They also suggest optimizing your capital gains taxes.
Capital gains taxes.
So basically withdrawing from taxable accounts first,
Oh, okay.
because long-term capital gains are usually taxed at a lower rate.
Oh, I see. So it's all about being strategic.
Timing those withdrawals to minimize your taxes.
Those are some good tips. I feel like I should talk to a financial advisor about all this.
Yeah, it's definitely a good idea to get professional advice.
They can help you create a personalized plan.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've covered healthcare and taxes.
Two of the big ones.
Yeah, but beyond all the financial stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I'm really interested in the emotional side of early retirement.
Oh, yeah, that's important too.
The Charltons talk about that in the book, right?
They do. They have a whole section on it.
Awesome. What are some of the things they say?
Well, they talk about the importance of having a clear vision for your life after retirement.
Yeah, like what are you actually retiring to?
Right. It's not just about stopping work.
It's about having a purpose.
Exactly. They want you to think about your passions, your interests, your values, and how you want to spend your time.
It's like you need a plan for your free time.
Yeah, otherwise it's easy to feel lost or aimless.
Right, like you're retiring from something but not to something.
Exactly. And they also talk about the challenges of transitioning from that work-centric life.
Yeah, I can imagine that being tough.
You know, you're so used to working and then suddenly you have all this free time.
It must take a while to adjust.
It does.
Yeah.
And they also talk about the social aspect of early retirement.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point. You're not seeing your colleagues every day.
Exactly. So it's important to make an effort to stay connected with people.
Like find new communities and support systems.
Mm-hmm. And cultivate those relationships outside of work.
It's like you're creating a whole new life for yourself.
It really is. The Charltons are all about creating a life that's both financially secure and personally fulfilling.
I love that. It's not just about the money. It's about living a life that's true to you.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have healthcare taxes,
Yeah.
the emotional side of early retirement.
It's amazing how much is involved.
But before we wrap things up,
Yeah.
there's one more thing we need to talk about.
What's that?
The practical steps to actually get there. You know,
All right.
like how to make it all happen.
Yes. We've talked about the ideas, but how do we put them into practice?
We'll dive into all that and more in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, sounds good. Can't wait to hear it. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the big picture, all the concepts of early retirement.
We have covered a lot of ground.
Now I want to get into the nitty-gritty,
Okay.
like the actual steps,
Right, how to?
How do we make this dream a reality?
Right, where do we even start?
Exactly. So where do we start?
Well, the Charltons, they say the very first step is to define your why.
Your why.
Yeah, like why do you want to retire early?
Oh, I see.
What are you hoping to achieve? What's the big goal?
Okay, so like what's motivating me?
Exactly. What's the driving force behind all this?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I guess you got to know where you're going before you can figure out how to get there.
Yeah, it's like setting your destination before you start a road trip.
Okay, so once we know our why, then what?
Then comes the fun part, budgeting.
Budgeting. Oh, boy.
I know not everyone's favorite, but
Definitely not mine.
it's important. The Charltons are big believers in tracking your expenses. Really understanding where your money is going.
So like write down everything you spend.
Exactly. They suggest trying it for like a few months.
Okay.
Just to get a realistic picture of your spending habits.
So you can see where it's all going.
Right. Because sometimes we're not even aware of how much we're spending on certain things.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sure I'd be surprised.
Probably.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how budgeting is important.
Yeah.
It's not about depriving yourself.
No, not at all.
It's about making conscious choices.
Exactly. It's about aligning your spending with your values and your goals.
So once you have that clear picture of your spending, then you can start making changes.
Right. You can see where you might be able to cut back without sacrificing your quality of life.
Like finding those little leaks.
Exactly. And plugging them up.
So more money can flow towards retirement.
Right. Remember that 50% to 70% savings rate we talked about?
Oh, yeah. That seemed impossible.
Well, a good budget is how you make it happen.
Okay, I'm starting to believe it now. But let's be real, not everyone can just jump to a 70% savings rate.
Of course not. It's a process. You got to start somewhere.
So what do they recommend for, like, beginners?
They say aim for at least 30%.
Okay, that's more manageable.
Right. And then as you get more comfortable with tracking your spending and finding ways to cut back, you can gradually increase it over time.
So it's like a marathon, not a sprint.
Exactly. You build up your endurance slowly.
I like that analogy. Okay, so budgeting is step one. What's next?
One other great tip they have is to automate your savings.
Automate my savings. Tell me more about that.
So basically, you set up automatic transfers from your checking account
Okay.
to your savings or investment accounts every month.
Oh, I see.
So you're saving consistently without even thinking about it.
It's like magic.
It kind of is. It takes the effort out of saving.
Out of sight, out of mind.
Exactly.
Okay, I like that one. But what if, even with a budget and automatic savings, I'm still struggling to make ends meet?
That's where those multiple income streams come in handy.
Oh, right. The side hustles and all that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The Charltons really encourage people to get creative.
Mm-hmm.
Think about your skills, your interests, and how you can turn them into a source of income.
Like, there's gotta be something I'm good at that people would pay for.
Exactly. There are so many possibilities these days.
So many ways to make money.
Yeah. The gig economy is booming.
Okay, so budget savings income. What's next?
Now it's time to talk about investing.
Ah, investing. The big, scary world of investing.
I know it can seem intimidating.
It does, but I remember you saying the Charltons have a good way of explaining it.
They do. They break it down into simple terms.
Okay, that's good.
And they really stress the importance of starting early.
Even if you can only invest a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even small amounts can add up over time thanks to compound interest.
Right, the eighth wonder of the world.
That's the one. So where do we start?
Yeah, with so many options out there, it's hard to know where to begin.
Well, the Charltons are big fans of index funds, remember?
Oh, right, those baskets of stocks.
Yep. They're a great way to diversify your portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
and they have low fees, which is always a good thing.
Okay, so index funds are a good starting point.
They are. And then they also talk about dividend-paying stocks.
Oh, right, for that passive income.
Exactly. And real estate, too.
Of course, real estate is always popular.
Yeah, but the key takeaway is to have a balanced portfolio.
Don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Exactly. Spread the risk and maximize your potential returns.
Got it. So diversify and think long term.
That's the key. Investing is a marathon, not a sprint.
You got to be patient and let that compound interest work its magic.
Exactly.
Wow, we've covered so much today.
We really have.
Yeah.
From budgeting to saving to investing to healthcare and taxes.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
but hopefully you're feeling inspired now.
I am. I really am. The Charltons have made early retirement seem like a real possibility.
It is. It's not just a dream for the wealthy.
Yeah, it's about making smart choices and being disciplined.
And having a clear vision for your life.
Exactly. It's about designing a life you love.
That's what it's all about.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to ask you, what's one small step you can take today to move closer to your early retirement goals?
That's a good question. It could be anything,
Yeah, like maybe create a budget.
Right.
Or set up an automatic savings plan. Or even just start researching different investment options.
Any of those would be a great start.
The important thing is to just take action.
Absolutely. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
That's so true. So take that first step today and start building the future you want.
You won't regret it.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into early retirement.
It was a pleasure.
It was fun exploring all these ideas with you. We'll see you next time for another exciting adventure in knowledge and inspiration.